Welcome in, Memphis. I'm Harrison Klopp, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things, a lot of different things today. We're going to talk about the Mississippi couple that won $2.5 million on the slot machine. And when you say $2.5 million, you're probably thinking, "Oh my God, that's a lot of money." Actually, not as much if you look at some of the biggest casino winners in the Mid South's history, most specifically Tennessee. That's what we're going to be looking at coming up. We're also going to be giving an update on the Mud Island shooting that happened this week and more information about the guy, John Eves, who found the red pickup truck. Truly fascinating background for this guy who lives on the Tennessee Mississippi border, and he's found 8 stolen vehicles behind his house in the last 3 months alone. But before we get to anything, we're going to talk about XAI. It's a story that you've heard so much about since Elon Musk announced that XAI would be coming to Memphis last year, and everything has moved so quickly. You might not have an opinion, but I think after we talk about it a little bit, maybe you should. And the question is not if XAI is good or bad for Memphis, because everyone from Justin J. Pearson to Republican state representatives have their opinion on that. I'm not here to tell you that. But I am here to ask the question, is Memphis ready for XAI? And more importantly, is XAI ready for Memphis? And we see the XAI uh, plant in South Memphis here. Our great photographers shooting this drone footage of the new plant, and there has been a ton of discussions on turbines. Is there pollution? But there's also been a lot of conversation on the opportunity that AI is bringing here. And it was funny. I was reading the Steve Jobs biography from Walter Isaacson the other night, and there was a great passage in that biography when Steve Jobs is 12 years old. He writes Hewlett Packard, who is, think of Hewlett Packard in the 1970s as the XAI now. I mean, a grown technology wasn't what it was today, really just starting out. And Steve Jobs cold phone calls, just opens up the phone book when those were a thing, and cold calls Hewlett Packard CEO Bill Hewlett asking for advice, and he actually picks up. And that one moment really kickstarted Steve Jobs into the legendary career he had, just because Hewlett Packard was in Southern California, right place, right time, and it was an ambitious kid meeting a ton of opportunity. And you can't deny, whether you like XAI or not, that AI is the opportunity. And uh, I think that is the question. AI, for the people that really know this, whether you're a professor at the University of Memphis, and there's a lot of them have been really following this, or you're a journalist like me who's been kind of following it. Some of the daily Memphian reporters, I will say, have been doing a better job of follow, maybe not better, but definitely been following it a bit little longer. And if you talk to anyone that's really following the situation closely, AI is not going anywhere. AI is just beginning, and AI in Memphis is not going anywhere. But the question is really, can these two sides coexist? Because there is a population in South Memphis that thinks the pollution that is caused by some of these turbines that XAI needs to run the world's largest supercomputer um, are causing pollution, and there's statistics that prove that point. So it really does kind of ask this question. You have this unbelievable opportunity, but there's pollution. So I think the question is, can these sides coexist? Can XAI come in and give maybe the next Steve Jobs, who's growing up in anywhere from Collierville to Orange Mound, an opportunity? And that's what I would like to see. I know XAI, who we've reached out to, is doing internship programs for local kids, and I think that's the story. If this can really transform the economy, uh, do you maybe overlook some of the environmental hazards that it could bring? Because you're never going to get everything you want in these debates, and I think both sides deep down may know that. But I think the question, as we look further into XAI and we keep digging into it, the question is going to be, can these sides coexist? Because if they can, the digital delta, which Memphis and now West Memphis, who's getting Microsoft, I believe, will really uh, be looked at in a different light nationally. I mean, you look at Memphis in the national headlines. Kash Patel, the FBI director, the other week called it the homicide capital of the world. Maybe we're the AI capital of the world. And again, there are clear signs to environmental hazards. So I think as we do a real show, maybe in a few weeks, or maybe even next week, we can have someone that can talk more about that because I think it's a discussion that needs to be had. But I also think I'd love to have economist on that can show or at least explain, just how big of an opportunity it is. And I really think that point I brought up, not to, toot my own horn here, about Steve Jobs finding the right opportunity as a kid, that's what we really got to be looking at here because there's a lot of bright kids in this area. And I feel that they're an opportunity away from maybe everything in their life changing. We did this story on a kid in South Memphis that was great kid, but kind of a rougher neighborhood, and he gets hit by a car in a busy street, but he's still a valedictorian, and the way he kind of overcame that. So there's a lot of really bright kids all over this area, and I just feel that I don't hear enough people talking about the opportunity that AI could bring. But we're also going to be moving on here to a very kind of funny story. I don't know if funny, but maybe inspiring for you local gamblers out there. And looking at the biggest wins in Tennessee jackpot history. And this comes after a man in Mississippi actually wins the $2.5 million slot machine uh, grand prize at the Gold Strike Casino over the weekend. He and his wife go not to gamble, but to get crab legs. We're going to play a soundbite of an interview your news leader did with him last week, where he explains again he wasn't even going to gamble; he just wanted some crab legs.
Me and my wife wanted some crab legs, and it was like, shoot, let's go to the casino and get some crab legs. And then we played a little bit of blackjack. And she's like, man, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm like, all right. Went to the bathroom. I played the slots. It's right there by the bathroom, and I hit big.
There you have it. Just going to get some crab legs. But we have this cool article here, and I just want to, and I talked about it, I guess, in the intro. 2.5 million, you may think, wow, it is a lot of money. That is a lot of money. 2.5 million, wow. But let's look at some of these, the biggest winners in Tennessee state history here. So at fifth place, we've got uh, Avondale Revocable Trust, 2015. They won 144.1. Fourth place, we got 198 million. The Freedom Trust. Roy Cochran. I was kind of reading into his story. Knoxville man, other side of the state, struggling actor, kind of down on his luck. Goes to buy a Powerball ticket, walks away with 153 million, and he's donated most of it away. Um, we go into second place, 420.1 million, the Tennessee 20. 20 coworkers from an auto parts manufacturing plant bought $120 worth of tickets twice a week for 8 years before they hit big in November 26. Wow, teamwork makes the dream work. They opted for a lump sum payment of the jackpot, which means each winner gets 12.7. Oh my gosh. So 20 coworkers buy $120 worth of tickets twice a week for 8 years, never giving up, and one of them hits it. They each get 12.7 million, but that's not the biggest winner we've seen in the state of Tennessee. And this article again comes to us from the Tennessean. The biggest winner we've seen actually comes from a couple right outside of Memphis, and 528.8 million. That's what John and Lisa Robinson won in 2016. The Munford, Tennessee couple not only, and again, this comes to us from the Tennesseans, our friends Just east of us in Nashville, great paper. The couple not only scored the largest prize in Tennessee history so far, they did it in January 2016 by capturing one-third of the biggest national Powerball jackpot ever, 1.58 billion. So most of these are Powerball winners, not so much getting in the casino like this Mississippi couple, like maybe even a more impressive win. But 528 million, I don't know if I can knock that. So they told reporters, the Robinsons here, and you can see him right there. Put, put the mouse over him. Uh, they would likely stay in their modest home in Munford, a small town of about 30 miles from Memphis. Lisa Robinson even said she'd keep working. Oh, and get this, a Memphis TV station, hopefully WREG, reported 3 years later that the couple bought a $6.2 million home with 10 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, a private home theater, and a private lake. The home sits on 320 acres. So I mean, you can't knock them for maybe switching up on their word there. But they win big, 528.8 million. And I did speak with the couple from Mississippi who, that's kind of the big question when you win something like this. Oh, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? They really just wanted to live their lives. In Independence, Mississippi, if you've ever been, I went for the first time last week, actually, because I did the story. And the town was 164 people. They loved it. They had no desire to leave. I mean, he was kind of thinking, the guy that won the 2.5 million. He's like, oh, maybe I'll go to Florida. But deep down, he was like, Independence. I know it, and I love it, and let's just stay here. But we're going to check out our final story here, and this is one that I think we've really done a great job of following up on all ends of life. We've had technology, we've had gambling, now we've have crime, and this is a very concerning story for those in the Mud Island area, as a man was driving his car, 29-year-old man, we find out later, shot in broad daylight at noon, and shot, and as he's bleeding in the side, I think they shot him in the side of his body. I think he was leaning over, shot him in the side, and as he's bleeding, three men go and rob him and escape in a red pickup truck. And that was really the lead we have. The man who was shot left in critical condition. But the story was, one, who are these men? And sadly, we do not have that update. But the big story we broke yesterday was where this car went. And we're going to play the whole story because I did this interview with John Eves, who's a man that lives in the Whitehaven area. I mean, as far south as you can get in Tennessee, literally lives on the Tennessee Mississippi border. But this guy in Whitehaven found the red pickup truck. Let's hear his story.
I seen that truck, and my dad had one like it, and it just kind of I recognized it. And then when I came down here, and it's pulled off into the woods. They tried to hide it.
John Eves recalling the moment he found a red pickup truck that matched the description of the vehicle that was used in yesterday's robbery and shooting on Mud Island. And while the three men responsible for the shooting have not yet been identified, Eves said MPD confirmed with him today that it was indeed the same vehicle. He says police told him that the VIN numbers matched, but the suspects put another license plate on the truck. MPD has yet to confirm that information with us. Eves said he knew it was the same truck from yesterday's surveillance footage when he saw the toolbox in the back.
Well, that guy, surely he'll take the toolbox out of the back. I mean, that's a sign saying, hey, here I am. So when I was riding a while ago, I said, damn, there's a truck parked back here. And I get up there, it's the toolbox. And man, I flew because I didn't know if anything was out in the woods or, people that stole it or parked it or whatever. I didn't know if they were in the woods. So I come up here where everybody could see me and called y'all.
And called y'all, he did. He actually called our desk here, and we were able to go down and do the story. And really, a fascinating question you have about crime here, because whether you debate is Memphis the homicide capital of the world, we can be on that topic for days. there is a crime problem in Memphis. Everyone knows that, and everyone from each side of the aisle will admit that. But these cars that are in these crimes, these high profile crimes like we saw in Mud Island, again, who we do not know who the three men are, but we know that like John Eves found here, and he didn't say this in the soundbite we just saw, he has found 8 cars, mostly stolen, actually seven stolen. This was the eighth one, and this one we do not know if it is stolen, but it was used in uh, a shooting. I mean, the really this spot in the Tennessee Mississippi border is a spot where people go, criminals go, and dump off cars that are in crimes. And I just think it is a really fascinating story, and I would love to have John in here on the OBS desk with me to really break down what he thinks about why this has happened. I know he told me off camera that he thinks, it's a secluded area, but is there any other spots? Because until John called our station and we found out that there's been this many, cars stashed there, this wasn't even on our radar. So a really interesting thing in a story that you do not see. Again, we do not have the update on Mud Island, and we will let you know when that changes. But that is going to conclude my broadcast for the OBS mock show. I did this with not a major game plan writing wise, but my main thing was could I produce one? And I feel like I did a pretty good job. I think next time I've got a good format, and I think it took me a few hours to build the slides you saw there. This was actually the hardest thing to figure out. But I think it's kind of a cool thing where I can just find things on the web and bring them into the broadcast. I didn't know how to do that, but I do now. And that is going to sadly conclude the broadcast.